or World War II were both just 12 years old. Can you imagine being on the brutal, unforgiving battlefield at only 12? I couldn't. But I can relate to being just about as young as possible in today's military. My icebreaker speech today is going to be on my uncommon experience in the U.S. military. My father was a career Navy man. My mother served in the Navy as well as did some time in the Army National Guard. I was intrinsically I was a troubled teenager with an intrinsic authority issue. There we go. I had no plans of following suit. As these things tend to go, I got involved in the wrong crowd as a teenager, partied too hard, and drastically failed the 10th grade. Being in my small backwoods country town in North Carolina, there wasn't many opportunities for me there. So my father allowed me to drop out of high school on the condition that I immediately received my GED and joined the military. So that's what I did. And 2 months after I turned 17, I shipped out to Georgia for basic training. So I was by far the youngest person in basic training at the time. I was the youngest person in the secondary school, AIT. I was the youngest person in some time to go to airborne school. I arrived at my unit at the 82nd Airborne in Fort Bragg, enthusiastic, only to find that my unit had already deployed. The people who I traveled with, trained with, and arrived with quickly left as well. Much to my chagrin, I found that as a legal child at 17 years old, I could not deploy to a combat zone. So, I spent my time in the rear D. The rear D is for leftovers, people who can't deploy, and it was not for me. I didn't spend my time training for combat in Afghanistan, which was upcoming. I spent my time mowing lawns, scrubbing toilets, mopping floors, and doing funeral detail across North Carolina. I was great at the 21 gun salute, but not much else. When I finally turned 18 and deployed to Bagram in Afghanistan, I was totally unprepared, and I had no idea what I was doing. But that was okay because most of it was pretty boring. I spent my time in the bazaar, which is basically where the locals sell bootleg DVDs. I spent my time in the makeshift movie theaters, working out at the gym, not doing a lot of training. I did this in Bagram, in Jalalabad, and Kandahar, Afghanistan. When it finally came time for me to join my unit on mission in Musa Qala, which is a town in southern Afghanistan on the border of Pakistan, I was, again, totally unprepared. What I did in the military was I was a fire support specialist. If you don't know what that is, if you've seen the World War II movies, and you've seen someone jump into a hole, yell a bunch of numbers into a radio, and then things go boom, that's what I did. That's what I was supposed to do. So, Musa Qala was horribly brutal and exciting. We were attacked every sunrise with small arms fire. The terrain was hilly, muddy, and unforgiving. I slept in a mud hut, on the floor next to a radio. I don't remember how long we were there, but I had a healthy beater before it was over, and it did not grow as fast back then. Let me back up a moment. Before I deployed, I had been hit with a paintball in my left eye at point-blank range. This accident happened stateside, and I fully recovered and was cleared to deploy. Apparently, though, it had weakened my retina, and the fighting and stress of Musa Qala caused a retinal detachment. When we got back from mission and I was able to get checked out, I immediately was shipped out of Afghanistan to an army hospital in Germany, and then eventually to Walter Reed in DC. I underwent 6 retinal attachment surgeries, all of which failed. So that was the beginning of the end of my exciting journey. I spent more than a year waiting to be kicked out of the military and med-boarded. I left the military after only a few years, jaded and displeased with my experience. Joining the military at 17 made it difficult to build close relationships, and the lack of prior life experience made other interactions difficult as well. While I wouldn't recommend anyone pursues this path or encourages their children to join at a very young age, I do have strong feelings about the benefits of the military. Being in the military can teach you how to suffer, how to be really, really bored and dirty. And you realize that's okay. It's not a big deal. They gave me a solid resume start, a paid education, and I left with more confidence and ambition than when I entered. Even though I did not necessarily enjoy my military experience, I wouldn't change my past because it helped make me who I am today. Thanks.